Good evening. 22 Eyewitness News is next. Here are a few of our top stories tonight. 45-year-old Elkhart man enters a not guilty plea today in the shotgun killings of 3 Conrail employees last year. Mayor Prickett, Democratic leader Joseph Zappia may be close to compromise over salaries for elected officials in Mishawaka.
Franklin Chung, who has had more than one run-in with the Board of Public Safety over substandard houses, was in court today to answer charges of theft and bribery. And a Waterville man charged with shooting his estranged wife last night was found dead this morning of an apparent self-inflicted wound. Some of the stories we'll cover next.
Good evening. I'm Ralph Allen with Andrea Wood. 45-year-old Rudy Bladell stood mute today at his arraignment in Jackson, Michigan. The former Conrail engineer from Elkhart was denied bond after his attorney entered a not guilty plea for the suspect. Bladell was arrested yesterday at his residence in Elkhart after a shotgun found in Jackson several days ago was traced to the former rail worker. Bladell is being charged in connection with the shotgun slaying of 3 Conrail employees late New Year's Eve. Bladell was picked up shortly after the slayings, but was later released because of a lack of evidence. He has openly admitted holding a grudge against the railroad because he was demoted to a fireman in 1971. The shotgun that connected Bladell to the case has been turned over to Michigan State Police for further tests.
Mishawaka Mayor Margaret Prickett and Democratic City Councilman Joseph Zappia said today that a compromise over salaries for elected officials may be worked out before Monday's special council meeting. That, however, appears to be the only area of agreement over salaries between the Republican mayor and the Democratic city chairman. Today, the mayor heaped additional criticism on Zappia and Democratic mayoral candidate Robert Kovach. More from John McKnight.
Mishawaka Mayor Margaret Prickett today restated her opposition to recently passed salary hikes, which she vetoed earlier this week, and she charged that Democratic members of the council may have been fulfilling a promise to their mayoral candidate, Robert Kovach, in passing those salary increases. The mayor said she can't understand why Democratic Councilman Joseph Zappia is so obsessed with higher salaries for elected city officials.
Or has Joe Zappia already made a commitment to some candidate that the Democrat members of the council would stick together and get a salary which might be satisfactory to him? Was that the price the Democrats have had to pay to get someone to run for mayor? I repeat, I'm not against reasonable raises, but I don't see how we as elected officials can limit our employees to 5 or 6% increases per year and then vote ourselves these huge increases. I think we should hear from Joe Zappia's hand-picked candidate on the subject.
The mayor made clear she was referring to mayoral candidate Robert Kovach. He said today he doesn't know what the mayor's talking about and would have no comment at this time. The Democrat added he does not consider himself Joe Zappia's hand-picked candidate. Zappia also refused to comment on the mayor's remarks. Meanwhile, Mrs. Prickett said she believes a compromise may be in the works, and although the council passed the salaries hike by a 6-3 vote, enough to override a veto, some council members may change their mind. She would not be more specific, but she did say that even if all the raises were reduced to 7% or less, a mayoral veto might still be considered. John McKnight, 22 Eyewitness News.
The Indiana Court of Appeals has overruled Elkhart Superior Court Judge William Bontrager, saying the legislature has the right to set mandatory prison sentences for felony offenses. Judge Bontrager ruled in January of last year that such action was unconstitutional. The case involves Harry Palmer III, who pleaded guilty to burglary and was placed on probation even though the new penal code called for a mandatory prison sentence. The probation order was appealed by the Elkhart County Prosecutor. At the time, Judge Bontrager threatened he might resign if an adverse ruling was handed down. The judge has now called a news conference for Monday morning. Meantime, the defendant is slated to appear in Superior Court for resentencing.
A rural Edwardsburg man apparently escaped serious injuries late this afternoon when his pickup truck crashed at State Road 23 and Brick Road in Lagrange Township. State police said 42-year-old Donald L. Ward was westbound on 23 when a car driven by 22-year-old Beck Van Loo of Cassopolis apparently made a turn in front of him. The Ward truck then veered out of control, landing on its top. The Edwardsburg man was trapped in the cab of his truck for several minutes and was freed by Lagrange Township rescue crews. Ward was taken to South Bend's Osteopathic Hospital. He is reported to be in fair condition tonight. A South Bend man often accused of maintaining substandard rental properties throughout our city was in court today, charged with theft and bribery as a result of an incident earlier this month. A report from Norm Stanglin.
39-year-old Franklin Chung, who listed an address of 1020 North Sheridan, was charged with theft in connection with the shoplifting of 3 circuit breakers with a total value of $10.20 from Cook's Discount Store on East Ireland, March 14th. When it appeared the store was going to prosecute, Chung allegedly attempted to bribe security officer Gary Coyce by offering him $350. Members of the South Bend Police Department and the St. Joseph County Prosecutor's Office reportedly witnessed Chung give Coyce the money. Chung's arraignment was continued this afternoon after he posted a $1,000 cash bond. The maximum penalty for the bribery charge is 8 years, while the theft charge carries a 2 to 4 year sentence. Norm Stangland, 22 Eyewitness News.
The submission of false equipment rental vouchers has led to the indictment of a former Lagrange County surveyor, Edward B. Houck. The Republican surrendered yesterday on the 6-count indictment. Dennis Charles has more.
It is the filing of false claims of renting this equipment from a Niles firm that led to the 6-count indictment against Edwin Houck. The allegedly false vouchers were paid by Lagrange County over a 4-year period after the G. Legerman Company billed the county. Houck surrendered to authorities late yesterday, and Prosecutor Michael Yoder held a news conference this afternoon.
We had certainly examined the information, and it was my opinion that the information was sufficient for the calling of a grand jury. The matter involved here can be considered somewhat complex in that the Lagrange County surveyor also served during the past 4 years as the Lagrange County engineer, and he also carried on a private surveying practice. So this meant that during this period of time, Mr. Houck carried 3 hats. The types of information involved here could easily have raised the question of whether or these were bookkeeping errors, or whether or not there was criminal intent, or whether or not there was any wrongdoing. And so against that background, the grand jury was called.
Houck, who was defeated in a bid to seek re-election last spring, will be formally arraigned next month. From Lagrange, I'm Dennis Charles, 22 Eyewitness News.
Authorities in Waterville, Michigan say 32-year-old Richard Lee Daisy, a chief suspect in the shooting death last night of his estranged wife, was found dead this morning behind his father's house trailer in Rush Lake Township. Authorities say he died of an apparent self-inflicted wound. Berrien County authorities were looking for Daisy in connection with the shotgun slaying of his estranged wife, 29-year-old Mary Daisy. 3 hours after the shooting, police say Daisy abducted a man and a woman at gunpoint and forced the couple to write a suicide note before setting them free.
Design plans for the proposed terminal at the Mishawaka Regional Airport were unveiled today during a meeting of the St. Joseph County Airport Authority. Norm Stangland reports.
The plans outlined at today's meeting represents the second set of architectural drawings on a new terminal for the local airport after the first set was rejected because of cost estimates that exceeded available funding. The latest proposal calls for a building that would cost an estimated $5.1 million, with the building design including space for ample airline service along with areas for a bus terminal and rental car space. The $5.1 million figure falls within allotted funds. The 65,000 square foot building is proposed for construction just west of the existing terminal building and will allow for construction without interfering with ongoing airline operations. The airport board this afternoon accepted the design development plans, which were submitted by Colin Associates of South Bend. Officials hope to accept bids on the project August 1st, with an 18-month construction period targeted to begin in mid-August. Norm Stangland, 22 Eyewitness News.
General Services Administration officials have ended their 3-day visit to South Bend to consider sites for the proposed federal building. Redevelopment Director Carl Ellison met with federal officials this morning and said that a decision on the final site probably will not be made until the market study on Century Mall is completed, and that'll probably be in June. City officials hope to tie the federal building to the proposed mini-mall project. The favored site by the city and federal officials is the Transport bus lot at Main and Jefferson.
Superior Court Judge Robert Miller will rule Monday morning in the suit brought against the Women's Pavilion Abortion Clinic by several neighbors of the North St. Louis Street facility. The neighbors testified in the February trial that the clinic's location in their neighborhood caused them great emotional distress. They also contend that the clinic violates local zoning ordinances. Previous court rulings in cases involving the first abortion clinic in South Bend have gone in favor of the Women's Pavilion. Internationally acclaimed sculptor Roger Brown was in South Bend this morning for an unveiling ceremony. Brown is donating bronze relief sculptures of the 5 Studebaker brothers to the Century Center Discovery Hall Museum. This morning, he unveiled the preliminary plaster casting of his bronze relief of Clement Studebaker. The bronze will be completed and donated in South Bend this summer. One of the 4 other brothers will be depicted in bronze each year following the completion of the work displayed today. All 4 will eventually be displayed in the Discovery Hall Museum.
Still to come on 22 Eyewitness News, updates on 2 South Bend buildings. Norm Stanglin reports on a lease extension for the St. Joseph County Welfare Building while officials continue their search for another site. And details of a financial move that investors hope will finally return business to the long-vacant Francis shop in the Riverbend Plaza. I guess we're all caught up with 2 things this weekend, one being the continuing playoffs in the NCAA, but perhaps in this area, more importantly, what is going to happen to the Argus Dragons.
That's right.
Have I guessed one of those 2 stories is your lead?
Well, we're going to talk about hockey first and we'll swing into that.
That's why I'm in news. I do real well.
Okay. Hello, everybody. It hasn't been officially announced